Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today with an article with a headline that was stupid, and I just felt like, I have to comment on this. So it's from Outkick. It says, Jay Williams believes Caitlin Clark is not great until she wins a title. And the reason I think this is stupid, because my first thought was like, so Jay Williams, you're trying to say that like people like Karl Malone and John Stockton and Dan Marino are, they're not great because they never won a title? Like, do you know how many all-time great players in their respective sports never won titles? I mean, Jesus, this is just a dumb statement. So let's go ahead and see what Outkick has to say about this. It says, Iowa Hawkeyes guard Caitlin Clark. Let me close this little player thing there. It says, is hands down the best female college basketball player in the nation, and everyone else is competing for second place. She can shoot from anywhere, score in any way, against whoever she plays against. Clark is one of the sport's most transcendent players on any level on the men's or women's side. She also happens to be the all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball as of Thursday night. She passed Kelsey Plum's mark of 3,527 points with a three-pointer from just beyond the logo against Michigan. Yeah, I ended up seeing that. It's like, she took a long shot and made it. So that was it's a good way to break the record. It says, at the rate she's going, she could pass Pete Maravich's record and become the highest-scoring college basketball player ever. And by all accounts, Clark has reached greatness on this level of competition. But ESPN's Jay Williams wouldn't say that. Not yet. Anyway, I've seen a lot of nastiness, and this is her right here, towards her because of, think about the population of folks that plays basketball, and now look at her, and that's why she gets a lot of hate, and that's just not fair, because that just shouldn't happen, because there's a word for that, begins with an R and ends with acist. But yeah, let's go ahead and just keep going here. It says, during today's edition, this would be on February 17th. I didn't say that at the beginning, so during today's February 17th edition of College Game Day, Williams said that he doesn't consider players great until they do one very specific thing. He says, I think she's the most prolific scorer the game has ever seen. I hold great or the levels of immortality or to the pantheon to win you win championships, Williams said. I'm not saying she's not at a high level, but for her to go to the state of immortality, in my opinion, has to culminate with your team winning a championship. And no, that's just no. So again, I use the same examples I did before. So what he's trying to say is that folks like Karl Malone and John Stockton and Dan Marino are not immortal players in their sports, which anybody that has followed either the NBA, if you don't know, for Karl Malone and John Stockton, or the NFL for Dan Marino, would know 100% that those folks are absolutely immortal players, that you'd want on your team under every possible circumstance you can imagine. They're just all-time great players. And just because they didn't win a championship doesn't mean they're not immortal. Okay? So let's scroll down here. It says, Jay Williams set a nonsensical standard for determining if players are great. And the author says, I will give Williams a little bit of credit for at least setting a definable metric for how he determines greatness. Most commentators set arbitrary standards by which they judge talent, or at the very least inconsistent ones. But that doesn't mean Williams' standard makes sense. Players achieve greatness by being consistently amazing over a long period of time. If you reach the point where you have a legitimate chance of becoming the highest scoring college basketball player in history, you've earned the great label and will be remembered for quite some time. Yeah, that's another good point as well. I mean, highest scoring, and especially if it's not just the women's, because who remembers even the name of the woman's record, the name of the woman whose record Caitlin Clark just broke that I mentioned like 2 minutes ago. Probably don't already. Hell, I'm having trouble remembering it myself. But if you could do it on both men and women, that's something to hold up high. So let's scroll down here, and this is, once again, Caitlin Clark right there. And it says, furthermore, neither Plum, that's who it was, Kelsey Plum, it was the women's top scorer before. It says, furthermore, neither Plum nor Maravich won a title in their collegiate careers, yet set the scoring marks for their respective sides of the game. Professional stars like, here we go, Dan Marino, Calvin Johnson, Ted Williams, that should have been an obvious one to me. Allen Iverson, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing's another one that probably should have been obvious to me, and Charles Barkley, that as well, also didn't take home their sports championship hardware. I'm sure Williams wouldn't hesitate to call some, if not all, of these players great, and I'd say all of them are immortal players in their game, at different levels, but they're still like all-time great players. So why is Clark any different? Does winning a title improve your standing with the history of the sport or help? Most definitely, but it doesn't take away from what you do individually. Titles should not have been Williams' standard when assessing Clark's career. And if you're, and I at the time that this video is going to pop up, there will be another video that I have up about, there was a list I found of the all-time top 25 greatest baseball players, and Ted Williams, spoiler alert for that video, I think was number 5 on the list. And keep in mind that something like 22,000 plus people have played baseball, like Major League Baseball, and Ted Williams is the 5th out of all those guys, and you're trying to say that that's not an immortal player? Teddy Ballgame? Really? Like, okay, and I mean, again, was splitting that out to some of these other guys all right here. Like, you're saying that none of these guys are immortal players? Like, Patrick Ewing's one of the best centers that ever played. Charles Barkley's one of the best power forwards that ever played. Same with Karl Malone. Allen Iverson's one of the best guards that ever played. Ted Williams is almost universally regarded as one of the best pure hitters baseball has ever seen. Dan Rato's usually on the list of the best quarterbacks of all time. And Calvin Johnson, even though I'm a Bears fan and he played in Detroit, I didn't really keep track of him that closely, but I would certainly think he's, probably people would mention him on a list of best wide receivers of all time. So, I mean, yeah, I just don't understand this argument. And does this make sense to you? Who are some other great players that you think never won a title that you think are immortal players? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this as well. I think Jay Williams is kind of being just an idiot when he says this stuff. So let me know in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.